Hello and welcome to my live stream. In this live stream, we will try to implement Doom running on a Docker container through a VNC server. I prefer in this case Chasm Web VNC because I had good experience with it. And yeah, so basically what we need as a pre-requirement to implement Doom is the source files for the configurations of Chasm VNC. And basically a Docker client, whether it's running on VSL, on WSL, or on any other virtual box machine or anything AWS. It doesn't matter for me. It's all, I think, the same process because of the modularity of Docker. Why VNC? I know it's an old protocol. I know there are some better protocols out now, but Doom is also an old game, and yeah, I prefer Chasm basically because of the simplicity. So, on the first step, we will, as we have, let's just check it. Docker is running. Status, it's running. So basically, we have got a Docker client, and now we can write our Docker file. Let's use Doom for that. So, the first thing that we have to describe is the source file. I will just use Ubuntu 18.04 for that. On the next step, we have to describe the display environment variable for the VNC server, and that's going to be basically like this. All right, so what we're going to need is basically first the port, VNC port, and it's going to be, at this case, I think we just use 8443. The resolution is going to be, let's just pick 720p. The frame rate, because we are running on a virtual box, I think a frame rate of 24 should be enough for this purpose. Next up are the VNC options, basically. So bandwidth is preferred here. And now we have to also set the dynamic quality. And also the maximum dynamic quality that we can get. So basically, this is my first try at getting Docker running on, or Doom running on a Docker container. So it is possible that we get some errors here in the code, or that we have to fix some stuff, but let's just see how it goes. So the next variable which we have to implement is the home variable. Here, I think we just simply use user, basically, because I don't want to mess up with any user permissions at this case. Term is, in this case, xterm. The startup here, let's just make it Docker startup. Now, next case is the install scripts. It should be the Docker startup file, Docker startup folder, and there on the install folder. Next up is the RX home, so basically the Chasm RX home, which we also implement on Docker startup, Chasm RX. So we also have to make it basically non-interactive, as yeah, we are running it on a Docker container, so we can't run anything which is interactive, basically. So now the next settings which we have to do is color def, and yeah, which is basically 24, I think. And now we have to set up the password. We will just say password or VNC password. Next up is the user. We will just use user, I think, in this case. I just want to make it as simple as possible. VNC view only setting, view only for the VNC just view permissions, which we have to set as view only password or something simple. Now next up is the location of the library path. It's always a standard thing for display variables to do. We just set it to user local, USR local lib. Next up is the wait policy. We just set it to passive so it doesn't interfere with anything. Our shell is going to be bash. And now a specific setting for CASM is the single application setting, which I found on the documentation, which we basically set to 1. So next up is, where are we going? Oops. Environment. Next up is going to be the VNC port exposure. And here we just use the variable that we got. It's VNC port variable, and now onto the work gear, which is going to be basically home. We just don't want to mess up with anything here. And now onto installing required libraries. We have to install. Let's just run an update. Then so basically we need supervisor for the permissions. We need Xfce we need Xfce terminal to make a connection. We need extern. We need live NSS wrapper. It's basically a requirement for this. We need get text. We need the JPEG def, and we just need simply wget to download the files. Next up is we want to keep the Docker file as simple and as small as possible. So after the steps, we're going to delete utils and Xscreensaver, which we don't need actually in this case. And afterwards, after we did that, we can try to work on the permissions, which is basically let's see. Let's run the permissions for Xfce first. So permissions for terminal. So in this case, we need to obviously make the folder. And afterwards, we just run the copy file from source, the startup script, which is based, let me check here. Basically, he should just copy everything there. And then onto the startup here. So afterwards we copy this, we go make another folder. Home, which is basically the config file for Xfce. Now that we have copied this, let's also copy the home folder, config, the config files basically for the XCF4, which is basically xfconf, xcfe per channel, not kernel. Let's try to fix that. Per channel XML. Let me check if we have this correct until now. I think everything looks good so far. What do we have to do next? So I'm just have to check out what we have on the source file side, check out the startup file. Oh. So we have the startup scripts, and let's also check out the Xfce config if there we have to copy anything. So we should use the desktop single app XML and try to copy this as desktop XML. So basically this is going to be because we only have one single application that needs to be run there, and we don't want another desktop environment or something run. So basically our next step is single app config, basically, I think. And there we just run this stuff. Config. Where's the config location again? Xfconf Xfce per channel XML Xfce for desktop single app XML. Copy this to config Xfce for xfconf Xfce per channel XML. I'm pretty sure we implemented some kind of error here, but we have to check out. So basically this is our desktop XML, and now we have to, I think, run the source or on the source for the startup here for the container user. It's required in this case. Let me check what was the name of this again. Startup generate container user. So basically we're just going to use this one. Generate container user. And we go implement this to bash rc as basically a source. Now on the next step is the installation of cache, Chasm VNC. There we have to basically get the, so where's the link for that? I had it somewhere here. Let me check out. Chasm tech, Chasm web. Oh, I found it already. So the Chasm web file is here located. And now I just have to unpack it basically with script 1 minus c. Okay, we have to do this, and now we can customize. First, we have to set up a fixed resolution, and let the client scale basically, and client scaling. So this is because I saw some weird errors basically with this if we don't do it. So that's why I'm basically using this stuff to have a fixed resolution and let the client handle all the dynamic scaling. So we have to check out for the unit setting file on resize. As unit setting, letting it run to resize scale, basically. Overwriting the scale file. All right, that is complete. And yeah, where is this file located? On user local share, Vnc, Vnc www app UI.js basically. Next up is to just install Doom. So to install Doom, we have to download some files, and this is one of them is Chocolate Doom, which is basically the standard Linux stuff. Now we have to download also the WAT files for Doom, and yeah, we have to also run PRBoom Plus. It's a requirement that I basically get every time when I try to download Chocolate Doom. It also runs these two files, so I'm just going to download them. And yeah, next up is permissions again, and here we go run change on. So I'm do $home. Let's just run it through root. Basically, I don't want to work with any permissions, and I know that these old VNC clients have problems with new permissions from Ubuntu 18.04. So we gonna run it like this, and now the entry point. The entry point is going to be basically, so I don't want to battle through Chasm VNC and start it from there. I just want simply to run it just from the startup script. So I'm just going to run this Xfce terminal. Yeah, -e. And I forgot where basically Chocolate Doom is the default location of Chocolate Doom. So I'm gonna just search for it. Default location Chocolate Doom. Chocolate Doom config. I did it. So on share, I think it actually runs it on user games. I mean, let's just try it. So user games Chocolate Doom. All right, now we got the entry point ready, and now we have to check out if our config setting is basically done correctly. So we load from Ubuntu 18.4, we set up the environments, which is basically display 1, VNC port 8443, VNC resolution 28720, max frame rate is 24, that's correct. Prefer band width is correct. Dynamic quality min is also in the documentation. Dynamic quality max is also correct. Home is home user, which is correct. Term is xterm, which is correct. Startup is fine, I think. I hope. The bare front end, so we have it set at non-interactive. We have the color depth on 24. The resolution 20. That's correct. The password is fine, the user is fine, the view only PV is fine. LD library path is fine, I guess. Wait policy is on passive, that's fine, and the single application is set to 1. We expose the VNC port. Let me just check. Yeah, that's correct. We have the work gear set on home. We installed everything and we purged things that we don't need, the screensaver and the PM utils. We run make the appearance, startup dir, run copy source, startup and startup dir, okay. We copy the to Xfce permanence channel, okay, perfect. I'm just gonna rename it to copying. Config file sounds better than permissions because we set up the permissions on the end at the end basically. Copy config files and then the single app config. Let me just check that out. So basically Xfce config Xfce per channel. I'm pretty sure we will have some errors that we don't necessarily, some syntax errors or probably something. Home config Xfce for Xfce per channel XML, Xfce for desktop XML, and then run echo source startup dir generate container user. Just looks fine for me first of all, but yeah, I'm not sure. So we have the correct VNC file for Ubuntu 18.04, and that's fine. We strip it correctly. As far as I can see, now onto the customize settings. I think that should be fine with the setting to remote basically. Next up, Chasm VNC. Below we have UIGS is the correct file according to the documentation. We install the correct Doom files, and now let's just check out the permissions. Change on -r 1000 home, user 1000 work your home, and the entry point is Docker startup, VNC startup, sh xfce terminal -e, user games, chocolate -doom. I hope that is correct. I'm not pretty sure, but let's just check out. So in a second, I'm just gonna rename it small because I like it the way. Then let's just build the file and see where this leads us. Unknown instruction, VNC resolution. We have one error in the file. Oh, just check out oh, yeah, I see what the error is basically. So uh, I want append. Okay, so this should be this should be correct this time. Check out. Now it runs and tries to build. Check out what errors we might get next, and then try to fix all the errors that we might get. But I'm hopeful that it might be able to run just fine. So there is an error that we might have to check out if anything doesn't work correctly. But looks fine for me so far. So the next step gonna be that we just basically run it if it's run successful, or if it builds successful, we just let it run, and then yeah, we basically try it out if that works. And if that works, then I'm happy. Night execution. Oh, no such file or directory. That's USB mux. There we don't need USB mux. That just saw the error. That's perfectly fine. Seems like it reliably installs and sets up everything. And there is also no error on setting up the Xfce 4 settings, which is fine. We might have to check out if it copies it correctly. Right? Kind of hung up there, I think. Let's wait a little bit and see if it works or it keeps moving. Looks like we have an error there, which we might have to fix. Let me just give it a minute or something to see if it really runs or not. I think basically it should be able to run, or it should at least give us a no on why it doesn't run. As far as I know, X screensaver is fine. Paragraph like that. Oh, well, I'm just cancel it because as far as I can see, I don't know why it did this one, but I actually wanted this, so it removes all the screensaver parts, and we have to build again. So now it perfectly removes it fine. Now it finds no. Oh, oh, right, because we are on a Docker file. Just move it back here and run it again. As I said, there are some rookie mistakes done here. Um, but I mean, no project runs perfectly fine on the first setting. Let's look at package freedom. Freedom. All right, there's another mistake that we have to fix. So let's just check out. Why did I want freedom there? Free doom, man. Free doom. Is that correct? Yeah. Ongoing. Oh, that looks actually looks good. So let's check out Docker images. Created the first. Okay, so we might just able to run it basically. So let's just try to run it. IT. Let's just map the ports, make it this, and then we set up the environment variables for user, which I set as Rambo, because that's my nickname here for this. And another environment variable for the password, just set up here as password 123. And oh, I forgot what is the image ID. It's this. I should have probably tagged it, but it doesn't matter. And yes, let's just run it and see what it does. The session manager environment, that's actually fine. I tested out on the first testing. It was actually good about getting the session manager, because we actually don't need a session manager for multiple pods, right? So it's done. So let's just check out if we are able to run it. I access it already. It's obviously not a safe environment. Looks good. It's password 123. And there we go. There is our Doom. Oh man, it runs perfectly fine actually. Whoa, I have to probably set up this. Whoa. Hey, I can play Doom on this. Running through Docker, through content streaming, through VNC, and actually running fine. So there we go. Docker, Doom running on a Docker container. Runs absolutely fine. Check out which which controllers it is, but I'll have fun. I'll have fun playing this basically. That's absolutely fine actually. So there we go, guys. That's running Doom on a Docker container with content streaming running from Chasm Web, and it runs perfectly fine. Thank you for this video, and have a nice day.